Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to be together here this morning. We read in our Torah portion this week a peculiar set of circumstances, an odd order of things. We read that first the Israelites knew that God was going to dwell among them, and then they made a sacrifice. It's a little strange. Usually we would sacrifice first, right? And then we would invite God or hope that God might join us. But rather, I think what we learn from that is when we know that there is a sacred moment, we bring ourselves to that space. We prepare a sanctuary just like we might have offered a sacrifice to hold that powerful and sacred moment. And so that is what we are doing this morning, both with our holiday of Shabbat and our celebration as Hannah takes her first steps as an adult. But first I want to offer a welcome to everyone who is here joining us online, and a welcome to everyone who is joining us online as well. Shabbat Shalom and welcome. If you would like, I invite you to place in the chat just a Shabbat Shalom or a good morning to one another. And a note that if you are joining us on tilb.org, you'll find not only a slightly higher quality live stream, but when we get to the end of our service and we offer names for our memorial prayer for the Kaddish, you can offer names in there as well, and we'll be able to read them out loud. Welcome to everyone who is here joining us from near and far. A welcome to our Torah Center teachers. Linda, it is very good to be in this space together with you. Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to and Mr. J. Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to our Torah Center class as well. Welcome. I want to welcome as well this morning David York, and thank you for leading with us this morning. I am very glad to be a part of this team. Thank you for being a part of it. And just a little bit of housekeeping this morning. So I know that no one would bring to a Shabbat service a cell phone, but if you happen to bring your phone this morning, I just want to invite us to place it on silent. I know it's the rabbi brought his phone. To place our phones on silent, or I'm actually going to turn it completely off, just so that we can have this morning together without that particular distraction. I want to note also that there's no need for any of us to take photographs. We have a professional photographer who's here joining us, and who first name I can never remember, who is going to be capturing this moment and doing it in such a way to preserve the sanctity of our service. A note as well that we have a life cycle room. All of us pray in our own way, but if anybody has the need to pray perhaps a little bit louder, and I'm thinking specifically if anybody has a tinok, I can think of the Hebrew word, but not the English word. Thank you, a baby. Please feel free to keep them here, or you can join us in the service from the life cycle room and hear and sing to your heart's delight. I want to note as well about our prayer book this morning that you will find in our prayer books, which is in the seat back in front of you, a number of different features. The first is that it has the traditional words of the Hebrew on the right-hand side of the page and the transliteration of those same words on the left-hand side of the page. But our prayer book was designed knowing that often each of us might have a different way or need on this particular morning. And so if we have a need to offer the particular words of the prayer, they are here in our prayer book, but you'll find also alternative readings on the left-hand side of the page. Still further, you'll find commentary underneath those prayers, and if our hearts wander this morning, I invite us to let our eyes wander around the page as well. Each of us finds a different way and our own way into prayer this morning. And so for some of us, that's going to be singing along to the Hebrew. For others, that's going to be humming along to the melodies. And for others, still, it's going to be simply letting these words wash over us. I invite us to get what we need out of this service this morning. I promise you won't do it wrong. Well, this morning as well, we welcome members from all around our community, those coming to this place from all over our wider circles. And so we celebrate this morning Hannah as she takes her first steps as a young adult in our community. She's been learning for many months and years to come to this moment in leading us in prayer. And so it is as one community joining together and celebrating this moment that we look out and offer and echo the words of the prophet Balaam so many years ago, Ma Tovu. What a beautiful community we are joined together to create. Page 74.
Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Va'ani berov hastecha, Avo veitecha, Eshtecha ve'el ha'al kodshecha, Be'yiratecha, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu.
As she begins the leading of our service, I'd like to call up Hannah as well as her grandparents, Clara and Irving Nerube, to present her talit to her this morning.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotah, v'tzivanu lehit ateth bat tzitz. Here I accept the obligation of fulfilling these mitzvot as commanded in our Torah. You shall be holy, for I, your God, I am holy. You shall not render an unjust decision. Leave something of what processes to the poor. Do not hate your fellow human being. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbors. Do not gossip or spread rumors. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am Adonai, our God. We will continue with Baruch, our call prayer. I will lead the congregation by singing the first line and bowing. The congregation will sing the second line and bow with me. On page 108, please rise and body your spirit. We will continue with Yotzer Or, our affirmation that this world is continuously the act of creation. We give thanks to the light that is restored to the earth daily. Please turn to page 110 for Yotzer Or. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, Yotzer Or overi chodesh, osei shalom uvarei et hakol.
Ladarim alecha barachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'hochma asita mala haaretz kinyanecha titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah or chadash al tzion ta'ir V'nizkechu lanu mehera leoro, Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hamerot. And as we continue with our Yotzer Or, I'd like to call up Emily Venegas, Hannah's nanny, beloved nanny, to offer a reading. This reading is on page 111.
You are praised, who rolls out the raw clay of the universe into delicate vessel of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that does turn all in shimmering decoration right before our eyes. Make this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flowers, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea. You are praised, who formed from clay that clogs the delicate vessel which contains our light.
Adonai's love for us and our desire to study Torah and fulfill the mitzvot in return is the theme for Ahava Rabbah. We continue on page 112. Ahava Rabbah, Adonai Eloheinu, Hemla, Gedula, Verita, Chemla Aleinu, Ba'avor Avotenu Ve'imotevu, Shabbat Chuvacha, Vat Lamdein, Huki Hayim, Ken Tenohi, Ut Lamdenu.
Veha erinenu betoratecha, vedabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, veyached levavenu le'ahava uyira et shemecha, v'lo בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך.
The Shema is one of our oldest prayers. It's our declaration of faith. In this declaration, we are pronouncing that all humanity is one. Bound by our joys, our sufferings, we continue with Shema on page 114.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai
Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Mahuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Please welcome up Raquel for Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol archecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hoyu hadvarim ha'eh asher anochi mitzvah hayom al evadecha v'shinantam levanecha v'divarta bam v'shivtecha b'vedecha u'vlektecha b'derech u'shachbecha u'v'kumecha u'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim ve'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeitektem me'eretz Mitzrayim L'hiot lahem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Bye-bye. In Mihamoha, we sing a joyous song of freedom that the Israelites sang when they crossed the Red Sea. We continue with Soy Israel, pleading for this act of redemption to be repeated. Please join on page 122 for Mihamoha. Shashir hu gedulim l'shim ho asafat hayam yahad kulam hodu vehim vehu amru Adonai imlo leolam va'ed mihamelcha ba'elim Adonai Adonai, We have entered into the part of the service where we pray for our prayers to be accepted. The Amidah, which literally means standing, is the pinnacle of our service, where we offer our private prayers. Please join me on page 124 and rise. Embody your spirit. Adonai sefatatita uvia gila dilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, let my mouth now declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagagor, Hagibor v'Levanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hastadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zoher Hasteavot v'imahot, U'mi'igla livnei v'nehem, Le'an Shemo v'avava, Melech Ozer u'Voshia u'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, v'Nizrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav leChoshiach, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, U'midol melach, Melech menid u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emana talehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Let us sanctify your name on earth, as it sanctified in our heavens above. As written in your prophet, Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzavot. God's presence fills the earth.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדשים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה.
Please be seated.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Ledor vador nagid god lecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. Ledor vador nagid god lecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador, these lips will praise your name.
The Vishamru is in the middle of the 7 blessings of the Shabbat Amidah. It asserts that we keep Shabbat as a sign of our covenant. Our custom here is to raise your hands in the air and lift up out of our seats when you hear the word et. Please join us for the fun Vishamru on page 132. Vishamru. Shabbat vaymafash. Shabbat vaymafash. Shabbat vaymafash. Rishon Ru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat ha'asel et ha-Shabbat ledorotam bari olam. Please turn to page 137 for Ritz A. Our plead to Adonai and accept our prayers.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam be'ahava tekabel, uthile ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, baruch ata Adonai, sheotcha levadcha b'yira na'avod.
In the final blessing of the Amidah, we pray for peace not only for the Jewish community but for the world. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us we will share a message. To all peoples of the earth, bless our country as a safeguard of peace. To evacuate among the nations, may content fall within our borders, healthy and happiness within our homes, strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may you love your name, sanctify every home and every heart.
Baruch ata Adonai, hamvorech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chayim chen v'chesed v'rachamim. 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 Please continue with either the words in your prayer book or the words that are in your own hearts, and we will gather together in song in just a couple minutes.
We now continue our service this morning, entering the next section in which we read from our Torah. And just a note before we enter this service, a little bit of a note about this time in our history. Given that it is the day and age that we are in, we are going to take the Torah out of the ark, and we are going to bring it to the congregation so that we might place a hand on the Torah. But I ask that you might first place your hand on the Torah and then to kiss your hand, as opposed to the other way around for of course, obvious reasons given the time that we are in today. This service is actually the center of our gathering. The reason why we come together is to hear these sacred words brought through the mouth of our youngest generation. And so to pass the Torah down the generations to Hannah this morning, I'd like to call up to our bima Mort Turndorf, Irving Nirube, Elaine Skolnick, Clara Nirube, Mark, Ariella, Raquel, and Hannah. The rest of the congregation, I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha Malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam vad Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom Av ha'rachamim heitiv av ertzonecha et Zion Tivneh chomot Yerushalayim Tivneh chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'cha levad batachnu Melech eram v'nisa Adon olamim Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Udevar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Ahad Eloheinu, Gedol Avodeinu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, unromem Shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד.
Oh no, I'm used to doing it the same. I had to do it on Friday.
Please be seated. Well, as Hannah is finding her place in our Torah, just a quick note about this particular scroll. Now, this scroll comes to us from the Queen Mary, and the Queen Mary had a synagogue placed on the ship at a time when it might have seemed as a strange thing to do. But the makers of the Queen Mary actually decided that it would be an act of welcoming, noting that they wanted their ship to be a welcome space for anyone who needed a home, to have a space on their ship. And it was not too long after the fires of the Second World War that they were making this decision. And so they decided very specifically that they would add a sanctuary onto the Queen Mary as a gesture and a note that all who live on this earth are home in it. And I think there's a poetic element to the sanctuary itself in that this particular scroll was the centerpiece of that very sanctuary. A reminder that we build home, that we are at home, any place that our sacred words are read, whether that be in lands far away, overseas, or right here in Long Beach. Well, we have different members of Hannah's circle and family to call up for the various aliyot this morning. And so for our very first aliyah, I'd like to call up some out-of-town guests: Moy Toiber, Sammy Toiber, Adri Toiber, Fruma Margolis, Ken Fisher, Marion Fisher, Marla Fisher, Viola Fisher, Lori Schaefer, and Becca Schaefer.
Nala Amod, Ha'harim Nalia HaTorah.
חרבנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
ותצא אש מלפני אדוני, ותאכל את המזבח, את העולם, ואת החלבים, וירד כל העם, וירונו, ויבלו על פניהם.
And we continue with the English translation of that very same reading.
Fire came forth from before the Eternal and consumed and burnt offerings and the fat parts on the altar. All of the people saw and shouted and fell on their faces.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
What's the first word?
Just on the other side of Cantor. For our second aliyah, we call up Hannah's grandparents, uncles, and aunts, Mort, Elaine, Michael, Janine, Deborah, and Jason.
Nala Amod, Hamishpacha, Laliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai
Hambarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayichu v'nei Aharon, Nadav vayihu ish aktakto. Vayitnu ohein esh va'asimu aleha ketoret, vayakrivu lifnei Adonai esh zara asher lo siva otam. Vatitze esh milifnei Adonai, vatohal otam, vayamutu lifnei Adonai. Okay, now we're in good shape. Up to Now Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu each took his fire pan, put fire in it, and laid incense onto it. They offered before the Eternal alien fire which had not been enjoyed upon them. And the fire came forth from the Eternal and consumed them. Thus they died at the instance of the Eternal.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam natan betokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Thanks.
Is it right here?
Stay here, just on the other side. For our third aliyah, we call up Hannah's grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousin. Clara, Irving, Reuben, Zev, Fanny, and Eitan.
נא לעמוד, המשפחה לעלייה התורה.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach, Baruch Adonai Mevorach, Baruch Adonai Mevorach, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Vayomer Moshe el Aharon, Asher diber Adonai lemor bigrovai ekadesh ve'al pnei chol ha'am ekaved va'idom Aharon. Vayigram Moshe el Mishael ve'el El Tzafan b'nei Uziel Dod Aharon Vayomer Alehem Hirvu Sivu et Hahechem Me'ei Pnei HaKodesh El Mihutz Lemahane Ka'asher Vayikrevu va'asum v'henototam el mihutz l'mahane ka'asher diber Moshe. I have no idea where we are. Up to the next page. Then Moses said to Aaron, "This is what Eternal meant by saying, through those near me, I show myself holy and gain glory before all the people," and Aaron was silent. Moses called Michael and Alzaphan, sons of Uziel. The uncle of Aaron said to them, "Come forward and carry your kinsmen away from the front of the sanctuary to place outside the camp." They came forward and carried them out of the camp by their tunics, as Moses ordered. I have no idea where we are.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, בחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. For our fourth Aliyah, we have the opportunity to call up Hannah's very proud parents, Mark and Ariella.
נא לעמוד, משה, לדבורה דבוש לעלייה התורה.
Is this the place?
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך בעולם בעת. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Vayomer Moshe el Aharon ul el Azar ul Itamar banav Rashechem al tifra'u uviglehem lo tiframu v'lo tamutu ve'al kol ha'edah yiksof ve'et ha'hechem kol ve'et Yisrael yifku et hasrefa asher saraf Adonai. Umi peta el hamaved Lo tetzu pentamutu kishemen meschat Adonai alehem ve'asu kivar Moshe. And Moses said to Aaron and his sons Eleazar and Itamar, "Do you not bare your heads and do not read your clothes lest you die? And anger strike the whole community, but your kin, all the house of Israel, shall bewail the burning that the Eternal has wrought. And so you do not go outside the entrance of the tent meeting, lest you die. For the Eternal's appointing oil is upon you." And they did as Moses had bidden.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan bekoreinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. For our fifth and final aliyah, we have the opportunity to call up Hannah herself. By nature of taking on this aliyah, she takes her place in our community as a bat mitzvah.
Nala amod, nala amod, nala amod, habat mitzvah. Keshet bat Israel v'devor devosh, laliyah haTorah.
Baruch Adonai hamvara.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Va'idaber Adonai el Aharon lemor, Yayim v'shechor al teisht atah uvaneha ita. Bevolechem el ohel moed v'lo tamutu hukat olam ledorotehem. Ul havdil bein hakodesh uvein hakol uvein hatameh uvein hatahor. Ul horo et bnei Yisrael kol hahukim asher diber Adonai alehem b'yad Moshe. Oh, no, I'm not. And the Eternal once spoke to Aaron, saying, "Drink no wine, intoxic, you or your sons, when you enter the tent or meeting, that you may not die. This is a law for all time throughout the ages. For you must distinguish between scared and profane, and between the impure and pure. And you must teach the Israelites that laws which the Eternal imparted through Moses." Oh, yeah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam neta betohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Now I'm done.
Well, as we lift and dress our Torah, I'd like to call up to the Ark for the honor of opening our Ark, Mark Sikowski and Jessica Lucas.
Mark Sikowski? Mike.
Mike, I apologize, Mike Sikowski. Apologies, Mike. You can call me, Rabbi Wolf if you want. Yeah. And for the honor of dressing our Torah, I'd like to call up Mort Turndorf and Elaine Skolnick. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
No, call him Rabbi Unicorn.
Zot HaTorah,
Zot HaTorah, Zot HaTorah,
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, לפני בני ישראל. וזאת התורה, וזאת התורה, וזאת התורה, וזאת התורה, וזאת התורה, וזאת התורה, על פי אדוני ביד משה. לי, 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 Eitz Chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Eilecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Please be seated. Well, just as we ask our young and emerging adults to teach us the words directly from our Torah, so too do we ask them to bring these words to life by sharing with us how they interpret them and how they speak to our lives. And so we'll hear from Hannah this morning, her thoughts and words on our Torah portion for this week.
Hello and welcome to my Bat Mitzvah. I'm assuming all of you know me because I invited you, but an introduction is necessary, so I'm Hannah Turndorf, I'm 13, today's my Bat Mitzvah, yay! My Devorah Torah Parashah is a little-to-known alien fire passage. Aliens, fire, kids getting burned alive, it sounds like an action movie my dad would watch, so I thought I'd ask him to help me unravel this tricky part of the Torah. My Torah portion is about Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu. What are their last names? I don't know, because that's one of the many, many mysteries of the Torah is why nobody has a last name. Nadab and Abihu were two of Aaron's sons, who was quite a big deal back then. As the first high priest of Israel, since this was such a big job, Moses made Aaron and his two sons as priests of the Lord as well. While this was a huge honor, it was a tough job. The story goes, the Lord made the sons make a fire for a Jewish ceremony. This fire had to come from a very specific place. While the sons were either not listening or thought they could make a better fire with incense to really spice it up, the ceremony, so they decided to go a different direction. This angered the Lord, who burned both sons to death with this alien fire. I'm not sure if the expression, the punishment doesn't fit the crime, came from this event, but it should have. Did this actually happen? Did the Lord actually burn the kids to death? Should we actually take the Torah portion literally? If we did, there'd be a good chance I would have been struck down, because if we're being honest, I've made a mistake or two during the ceremony. Should the Torah be taken literally? Taking the Torah literally would be, among other things, questioning science. Unless, of course, you believe the earth is a flat square on top of a set of pillars. It also raises the question, how did the largest river in the world get completely filled with blood? Or how exactly did Noah fit all those animals onto the ark? These are just a couple of the many examples where the Torah where most people question the accuracy of what is written in the Torah. Is it shameful to question the Holy Scriptures? I think not. The Torah focuses on answering a moral and spiritual question. Facts, science should not get in the way of this. Some of the smartest people in the world spend lifetimes, and not 900-plus-year lifetimes of Adam, Seth, and Enosh, as mentioned in the Torah, studying, debating, and shedding light onto the mysteries of the Torah, such as this minor one. What are Adam, Seth, and Enosh's last names? I think it is important to think about what the Torah passage meant in its original time and place. For example, it stated twice in the Bible that Jews shall not eat pork. What is the original time and place where the Torah written made up the no pig policy? Is the topic brought up not once but twice? The Bible was created in the deserts in the Middle East. Pigs require larger amounts of water and cooler temperatures than cows, sheep, or goats. And therefore, it's more difficult to raise in hot, dry climates. It was smarter, easier, and more economical to focus on raising goats, sheep, and cattle, as it was too expensive and time-consuming to feed the pigs and keep them cool. Was the no pig callouts in the Torah simply a public service announcement to Jewish shepherds of the time? This takes us back to Aaron's unfortunate sons. At the time of their untimely deaths, Judaism was a new thing. To grow the religion and attract more followers, the rules of the temple and ceremonies had to be followed as strict as possible to create structure within the religion. When the Torah was written, it was important to emphasize what it meant to be Jewish and what should and should not take place at a Jewish religious ceremony. What better way to do this than threaten death by the Lord and who do not obey? Maybe this is where the expression, to not put fear in God in someone, came from. A parable is a simple story used to illustrate moral or spiritual lessons. The lesson here is a good one, to treat Jewish ceremonies with much honor and respect as possible. This lesson was so important that the Torah writers did not just think killing Aaron's sons to emphasize this point was enough. When David and the Israelites attempted to move the ark at the covenant, Raiders of the Lost Ark is my dad's favorite movie, if you're wondering, to Jerusalem, the ark started to fall over, and a good citizen happened to be nearby and touched the ark to catch it. What did he get for helping? Instant death. Why? He was not one of the people God authorized to serve the sacred duty. Again, Judaism was just starting out in a parable. This parable was written to highlight the importance of following the laws and customs of the religion. Of course, this is just my interpretation of the story about Aaron's sons. Rabbi Fox might preside over 10 other B'nai Mitzvahs who read the same Torah portion, and each may have a different interpretation as why God decided to burn Aaron's sons to death. This is part of what makes the Torah so great and timeless. A literal text can be read once and understood. The Torah's meaning can be studied, debated, and analyzed endlessly with different results, depending on the time, place, and culture of the scholar. The stories, events, and characters of the Torah may be based on real people, but liberties were taken to make sure the oral and written law of the Jewish people were well understood and passed down from generation to generation. Maybe this is why no one in the Torah has an actual last name, so the actual people and characters who are based off of in the Torah could not ask to share in the prophets. To finish off my speech, there are a lot of thank yous I would like to give. Thank you, Cantor Cooper, for putting in many, 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 many hours of your time and helping me to make this day come to life. Thank you, Rabbi Fox, for helping me with my Torah portion and many other things in this service. To my classmates, thank you for always being there for me. Linda and Rachel, for teaching me so much. Also, thank you, David York, for your amazing music, and Mr. J for helping me every week to assure I was well prepared for today. Also, a huge thank you to my friends from school who had to deal with me saying I can't go to farmer's market or I can't hang out because I have Hebrew studies. After today, I'm much more available. To all of my friends and family who are here to see me from all over the world, thank you. Also, thank you to Emily for everything she does. And my sisters, Raquel and Amanda. You suck sometimes, but I love you. And finally, to my parents. Sometimes I get embarrassed by their affection, so today, in front of everyone, I just want to say, I love you, Daddy and Mommy.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Hannah, I'll have a moment to share some words. So for now, I'm just going to invite up a member of our board of directors who wants to offer you some gifts this morning. You truly have been a gift to our community. We want to reflect that gift with our gifts for you. And so I'd like to call up Karen Ben Shmuel, member of our board of directors, to offer these gifts to you this morning.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hannah, you did it. Mazel tov. You were absolutely amazing. I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with you and your amazing family in and out of temple over the last couple of years. And you really light up a room. I mean, I can't say that about everybody, but you do. You're silly and kind and fun and welcoming. You love sushi. You adore your friends and family. And you're just always so much fun to be around. I know how much you prepared for today, and all the rehearsing really paid off. Do you feel good? Yeah. You were confident, and you look happy up there, and you really did a beautiful job in leading us in this service, and I'm so proud of you. You did an amazing job. On behalf of the board of directors, we have some gifts for you. From the temple, we have the Jewish Study Bible, a Tanakh translation, so you can continue studying in your home. From the Sisterhood and Men's Club, we have Kiddush Cup and some Shabbat candles to continue celebrating Shabbat. And from the URJ, Union for Reform Judaism, we have a $250 gift card to summer or semester Israel travel program. So Mom and Dad, let's hopefully go to Israel one of these days. And yes, so those three are all for you. And again, I just want to wish you a mazel tov. I'm so proud of you. You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Hannah.
Yeah.
So there's a part of the Torah that always surprises me. And it's actually the moment at Mount Sinai when the Israelites are standing at the base of the mountain, and it says that God is revealing God's self to the people of Israel. And they have a kind of peculiar reaction. The reaction is, whoa, that's too much. And they say, hold on, we need you, Moses, instead to meet with God face to face and relate what God says to us. That direct connection, it seems like too much. Hannah, one of your many wonderful qualities is that you are a deeply open and honest person. There are no qualms about telling it just like it is, right? Imagine a couple of us may have experienced that. Yeah. And I think that it could be the case that a person might be nervous about offering something direct and honest. It can be a little uncomfortable to have a real moment. You mentioned in your devar that there are a lot of different ways to interpret Nadav and Abihu in this story. And I absolutely think that the crime did not fit the punishment. Another way that we could see it is that Nadav and Abihu were almost punished for directly connecting with the divine. But there's actually another reading. There's some peculiar lines that happen after it. It says, God says, through those who are near to me, I make myself holy. And then later on in another section in the Torah, it actually says Nadav and Abihu are perhaps the highest in holiness, and it led the rabbis to wonder, maybe this wasn't a punishment. Maybe this was a great acceptance. Maybe it was an honor. I think that it would be possible to be nervous, to be open, to be honest, given punishments just like the punishment that we saw Nadav and Abihu experience. But perhaps that there is a really powerful, amazing part of that as well. Perhaps there's a whole nother level of extension of connection that's taking place, and that is what I would like to suggest that you offer to the people that you talk to and spend time with. There is a deep openness and honesty that takes any interaction and connection with you and brings it 10 steps higher. And so here is my blessing for you. Stay open. Stay honest. There will undoubtedly be times where to be that real with someone can be a little bit uncomfortable. But don't waver. Stay there. Because through your interactions, your openness, your honesty, you bring all of us just a little bit higher in our lives. Hannah Mazel Tov. I'd like to invite your family to offer more blessings for you this morning. So I think I'm inviting the whole family. Come on up, the whole immediate family. Come on up.
So Raquel is going to give you a speech, but I'm going to start first, very quickly. And then we will go with Raquel. Oh, wait, where did I put it? Okay, here. So, gracias a todos por acompañarnos este día tan importante para nuestra familia. No, it's not going to be all in Spanish. Which means, thank you everyone for being part of such a special day for our family. We have uncles, aunts, and cousins who traveled from Mexico, Canada, and across the U.S. to be here with us today. We feel very blessed, Hannah. You just look at this room. Oh my God, I'm shaking. All eyes, I'm shaking, but all eyes were on and are on you.
I've been shaking all day.
You've been shaking all day? Yeah. I know you well enough that partly you must absolutely loving it because you love being the center of attention. With your gregarious and loud personality that can be both charming and at times challenging. You have grown to become a beautiful woman, inside and out. You have so many amazing qualities, each different in color, like the rainbow, which is your Hebrew name, Keshet. When it comes to gymnastics, you're determined, you're focused, you're disciplined. At school, you are loved and cherished by all your friends. And at home, you are best friend to your older sister and a rugrat to your little sister. You are a talented cook, a thoughtful gifter, fiercely independent, an entrepreneur who wants to be the next Elon Musk, by the way.
No.
Yes, you said you wanted to be the next Tesla. Elon Musk did Tesla.
Yeah, I just want to be like a multi-billionaire. That's
Okay, all right. You are relentless, determined. And as you put it, you know what you want, when you want it, how you want it, and you get it. Yes, I just quoted you. Well, sweetie, you did it. You have become a Jewish adult today. And we're so, all of us, very proud of you. I know that this is the beginning of many naches and moments of pride and joy you will gift us with. And we love you very much.
What is naches?
Naches is moments of joy.
Oh.
In Yiddish.
Okay, Raquel's turn. I really want to hear her speech. Okay. Oh, no. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah's older sister, Raquel. Not the bratty one, the embarrassing one who sings when she's on FaceTime. Before I begin, I would like to make it known that I'm in an unofficial competition with my dad over who wrote the better speech, so I will be accepting criteria under creativity, wittiness, embarrassment of Hannah. Thank you. Of all the things I've written, this was the hardest. Keep in mind, I'm in the Creative Writing Conservatory at an art school, so I've written quite a few things, from plays to short stories to scripts to even reviews. But they haven't taught me to write a speech, especially not one for such a momentous, once-in-a-lifetime event, a bat mitzvah. So, because of this inexperience, I wrote exactly what I witnessed on the night of March 7th, 2022, to capture the true essence of a Miss Hannah Kate Turndorf. And since I have such experience in story writing, please enjoy an excerpt of Hannah. The tension was thick, tears already shedding down the red face of Hannah. She needed her iPad for a good night's sleep after a long, stressful day. I sat, almost as though I wasn't there at all, in the corner of the epic battlefield, observing the clash to come between my sister and my mother, known for her inability to be persuaded by the reasoning of her kin. The subject of debate tonight: does Hannah really need her iPad in order to fall asleep? Mother on the negative, sister on the affirmative. I know from past arguments between the two fire signs that Hannah doesn't provide convincing evidence when she's tired, and if she does, it's overshadowed by her irritating whines. I'm almost done with my aliyahs. You're stressing me out, Hannah cries. I will stress you out. You're a few weeks away and you have to be ready, my mom argues. I'm not hurting you. I'm making you study what you're supposed to do. This was a solid argument, but not enough to worry Hannah. She has 13 years of experience. I am studying, Hannah argues back, pulling the sympathy card. I study every single day in the morning, and then with Mr. J, and then 30 minutes after. I smile at her use of logos, proud she might actually pull through and win the quarrel. But, as stated in Tangled, mother knows best. My mom hits Hannah hard with, I can cancel this whole thing. I'm only putting this much effort into your bat mitzvah because I love you so much and I want what's best for you. That's when we both know Hannah has lost. Mustering up a bit of her infinite ego, she finishes the battle with a, I didn't do anything, you're no fair, I'm telling Daddy, and stomps off to her room. She doesn't tell Daddy, for that would resolve yet another defeat by her mother's undefeated no. But she tells me, despite having been there throughout the whole course of the conflict. She goes on and on about how bat mitzvahs are dumb and nobody understands her and how mommy's mean, teenager stuff. But then she stops, and I turn around, and I see my mom was standing there at the door throughout the course of our entire conversation.
Never said that.
Something I love about Hannah is that she has zero filter, which sounds kind of bad, but it's really funny. So, we now see that our mom could have overheard our chat about life, and we have no idea to what extent she listened to us. But Hannah just comes clean and says, Raquel and I were discussing about how bat mitzvahs are dumb and you suck and you should give me my iPad. Well, I'm like, thanks for busting us, Hannah. But she doesn't stop there. Back to her whiny tone, she says, because it's just a stressful day, that I have to learn this thingy that I'm going to forget the next day, and I'm supposed to feel like so cool, like, oh my gosh, I'm a Jewish adult, but no. And while she has a point, you don't go telling your mom that. And after that, my mom just dramatically left. That's where I get it from, if you were wondering. And Hannah and I talked about foot tans from wearing socks too much. That's Hannah for you. She has the attention span of a goldfish. I love it though, because I could burp, voice crack, or do something incredibly embarrassing to myself, and she wouldn't notice because she was too busy finding the perfect Snapchat pose. How iconic is Hannah? From this you might think, Raquel, you and Hannah must have such a close relationship for her to just spill your guts out to you. No, she'd do that to anyone. You just saw she did it to my mom, and that's who we were complaining about. But recently, yes, our relationship has gotten better. It's weird. I remember Hannah and I used to be so close when we were little, and then with the flip of a switch, we fought nonstop. over toys, clothes, friends, and what to watch on TV. But while I grew out of shows of our childhood, Hannah still loves a good My Little Pony episode.
No.
But then,
My Little Pony.
No, Amanda watches then the switch flipped again. Where was I? The switch flipped again, and Hannah asked me about the people at school. Then the teachers, then drama, then about me, and how I was doing. Confused at first, I replied with a simple, "Good, and you?" And she would say good too. After a while, though, we became truer with each other, sharing how we felt about friends, boys, and other things. For the first time, I understood the balance the Ross siblings have in Jessie. It's okay to fight as long as you know the person you're fighting with still loves you. I have that clarity now. And Hannah, I can honestly say, I am so proud of you. Thank you.
I know.
Oh, Daddy, you scared you might lose.
No, sorry. We should have screened this before. Sorry about that.
Is it going to be this good? I told you. Is it going to be this good?
To be clear, like a week ago, Raquel walks by and goes, "I'm writing a speech. It's going to be so much better than your speech." I'm like, okay, cool.
And she finished her speech today.
I know
at this
part of it.
temple.
So, but nice work. And I wish you took a speech writing class because they would have taught you what's appropriate for the venue and what's not appropriate for the venue. But next time we'll get that. All right. Okay. Don't look at my speech.
No one make sure it doesn't show my little finger or anything dumb.
I want to say I'm incredibly fortunate. I've been in so many aspects of my life. Family, wife, kids, career, friends. My cup runneth over with happiness. Somewhere near the tippy top of this mountain of great fortune is this. I'm 53 years old, and my mom and dad are here, healthy, and able to share this with me and my family. And I don't say this nearly enough, especially not in public. I love you both very much. I just wanted to start with that. Sorry it wasn't about you. Having kids has been the greatest joy of my life. Thank you for Hannah for being the middle part of this never-ending joy. As a gift, I want to talk about Hannah's two loves. She spends 89% of her waking hours participating in or talking about said loves. And I came across an advertisement recently that combines these things. It went like this. Are you a gymnast, former gymnast, or just love sitting on a couch and watching gymnastics? Do you also own a dog? It is high time to start thinking about combining your love for gymnastics with your love of your canine friend. It is possible to incorporate your dog into the world of gymnastics. There are so many gymnastics-related activities for your dog to do alone or with you.
Walking Bucky on the balance.
So get your pup in a leotard and get ready. This is pretty exciting stuff in the world of Hannah. I could go on and on talking about how loving gymnastics and dogs don't have to be two separate things. I'm sure Hannah would be at rapt attention learning how the 4 Olympic events, vault,
Bars, beam, and floor.
bars, balance beam, and floor, and you did notice that I did them in the right order, morph into balance beam, trampoline, and ribbon dance when a dog is involved. Sadly, to Hannah at least, life consists of more than just gymnastics, dogs, and this amazing revelation that you can combine the two things. So as much as Hannah would love me to ramble on about how a Legato Romanola named Ollie almost scored a perfect 10 in ribbon dance at the World Championships, but the Great Dane judge was very unforgiving that day, we're going to have to move on. Every parent has fears about their child that keeps them up at night. Are they happy enough? Will they stay healthy? Are they safe? The list goes on and on and on. And my biggest fear is one I'm sure that every parent has spent many a sleepless night thinking about.
What?
That fear, of course, are my daughters getting stranded on a desert island.
How would that happen?
That fear became all too real when my wonderful wife recently bought a boat. And sure, the boat is on a lake, and sure, that lake could be kayaked around from end to end in a couple of hours, but sometimes fears are a bit irrational, Hannah. If this unthinkable event happened, Raquel would entertain her sisters by writing 3-act plays about the meerkat they befriended while waiting rescue. Amanda would figure out how to get to and from the watering hole without getting lost because she has an amazing sense of direction. But it would be Hannah through this whole ordeal that would help me sleep better at night because she's always so resourceful, independent, and driven to try her hand in the practical adult arts. So she would protect her sisters by building a shelter, figuring out how to open and cook coconuts. Would she clean up after her building or cooking efforts? Not a chance. But I would take solace knowing that with Hannah's help, our girls would have food and shelter on that desert island somewhere out in the less traveled part of Lake Arrowhead. I've been lucky enough to be able to take my kids to school most every day since preschool. In preschool, Hannah would cry and plead for me to stay when I dropped her off. Every day was a painful and heartbreaking experience that would take me more than a moment to bounce back from. Since kindergarten and up through and including Thursday, I've had the joy of walking. She didn't go to school Friday. I've had the joy of walking Hannah to school. Every day when we arrive at school, I met with a big hug, a big kiss, and a loud, zealous, "I love you, Daddy!" As we entered middle school, I was afraid this would cause her friends and strangers alike to laugh and call her a daddy's girl. I told her she might want to just tone it down a little bit.
I never even do it anyway.
She looked me straight in the eye and said, "I love you, Daddy, and I don't care who knows it."
Ew, why would I ever do that?
Sorry, I couldn't finish that. In actuality, Hannah mumbles, "Bye, Daddy, I love you," as she hurries away from me as fast as possible. The heartbreak from preschool is back, although in a very different form of indifference and embarrassment, although I'm pretty sure she loves me. Right, Hannah? Okay, good. All right. I now want to turn things over to Amanda, who wanted to say a few words to celebrate her middle sister on her bat mitzvah day.
When I was only
It's okay. I'm back.
When I was only 3 years old, my dad sat me down and asked me to do something. He said,
Amanda, I want you to bother your middle sister, annoy her a lot, and fight with her every chance you get.
I was surprised by this. I said, Daddy, I love my middle sister. Why would I do that? My dad told me.
While Hannah is smart, friendly, and helpful, she sometimes has a short fuse. I want to try to teach her patience and the ability to turn the other cheek. By the time she reaches 13, all this annoying bugging and fighting will have paid off, and Hannah will simply smile and walk away instead of launching a counterattack.
Because I was only 3, this seemed like a good plan to me. I agreed to bug, annoy, and fight with Hannah every chance I got until she turned 13. Well, there is something my dad did not count on. I am good. I mean, really, really good at bugging, annoying, and fighting with my sister, especially my middle sister. While Hannah can try to be patient with me, try to turn the other cheek, she is only human. Happily, Hannah is 13 now. I no longer must bug, annoy, and fight with her. I love you, Hannah, and I have loved you my whole entire life. And if you are mad at me for bugging, annoying, and fighting with you, just remember it's all Daddy's fault.
But you bugged me this morning and I turned 13 on Thursday, so...
She hadn't read the speech yet. Thanks, Hannah. Amanda. My whole life I'm doing that. Amanda, Raquel, Hannah. This is a very special day for Hannah. Not only can she officially sit in the front seat of a car, but she no longer has to eat off of the kids' menu. In helping Hannah prepare for today with her Torah portion speech, I did a deep dive into ancient documents that use parables as teaching tools. As Hannah mentioned at 1.5 speed, a parable is a simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson. I stumbled upon a little-known Akkadian scroll entitled, and I apologize if I botched the translation, my Akkadian is a bit rusty, Hunter, Gatherer, Father. Like most 13-year-olds, Hannah is a work in progress. Hunter, Gatherer, Father, while thousands of years old and unavailable on Amazon, holds some of the keys for Hannah's continued growth into the wonderful woman she's becoming. One story from the scroll that comes to mind is the story of Hannah, a little girl who loved to talk and be the center of attention so much that little Hannah never took the time to listen to her wiser elders because she was too busy, talking. Her elders told her many, many times not to play next to freshly killed carcasses. Sadly, dead animals, because that's how people. Sadly, Hannah was too busy talking to heed this warning, and a saber-toothed tiger ate her in 2 bites. But not before the tiger told Hannah that it is remarkable how much more you could learn by actually listening to people. Then there's the story of Hannah, the girl who loved to win and hated losing so much that she would sabotage the game and ruin it for the others if others were winning. One day she was playing a game of rock with her sister Amandar. Paper and scissors were not yet invented. Paper and scissors were not yet invented. She kept losing, so Hannah stormed off, only to be eaten whole by a saber-toothed tiger. But not before the tiger told her, you should always be a gracious winner and a gracious loser. But my favorite story concerns Hannah. The little girl was smart, beautiful, full of life, and unflinchingly confident. Every day, her dad, Marv, would walk her to the village market. Upon Hannah's arrival, her dad would bellow, I love you, Hannah. Have a great day. Hannah would turn red in the face and make a beeline away from her dad. One day after, Marv explained, I love you, Hannah. Have a great day. And Hannah was scurrying away, head down, pretending she was an orphan. Her dad tried to get her attention, but alas, Hannah ignored Marv's pleas to stop. And a saber-toothed tiger pounced out of nowhere and gobbled Hannah up in 3 equal bites. Of course, not before the tiger told Hannah not to care so much about what other people think and be warm and kind to those who love you. There are so many great stories in Hunter, Gatherer, Father. If I could summarize the rest of the scroll, it kind of boils down to, if a kid listens to her dad, cleans up after themselves, reaches out for help if something is bothering them, does not always have to have the last word, punch, or insult, asks before grabbing food off other people's plates, focuses on schoolwork as much as they focus on gymnastics, and understand they're not always right, they clean out their lunchbox when they come home from school, are always willing to learn, consistently treat others with kindness, be curious about the world around them, and never, ever blow out other people's birthday candles, there is a terrific chance that kid will not be eaten by the saber-toothed tiger that is life. Congratulations.
It says from your favorite child.
Right,
Yeah, for your favorite child. Who are those 2?
We're done. So under your seats are an envelope to vote on either my speech.
I think Raquel's was funnier, but yours had more heart
thanks.
to it. Everybody always wins.
Well, we're gonna continue now with some words that are very ancient, older, at least a week old, and these words are words that are offered from any moment that we have the opportunity to celebrate an important and profound moment in someone's life. And so, Hannah, throughout the generations, these words have been offered to people in sacred moments in their lives. And today, these words are for you. I'd like to invite you to come on up to the bima.
But you're going to face me. There you go. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's face be turned toward you in graciousness.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always watch over you, and may you be blessed with that greatest of gifts, that gift of peace. I invite us together to say, Amen.
Mazel tov.
We're going to do
No.
Well, as with any time that we are together for a sacred moment, our lives being brought to a particular moment where we are able to celebrate it, we say Shehechianu. We offer thanks for being brought to this moment.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Amen. Mazel tov.
We continue on page 282 with the words of Aleinu. I'd like to invite us to rise in body or in spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. And if you are joining us online, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of this Shabbat in the chat at this time. Together, Hannah and her family are especially thinking of this Shabbat, Gitela Mizrahi and Ed Skolnick. And we additionally hold in our hearts those near to those who have died in the past week and 30 days and who are observing Shiva and Shloshim. And so as we remember Eileen Sue Hammer, we think of Darren and Zachary. And as we think of Howie Schulman, we think of the Schulman family. As we remember Gary Turner, we think of Natalie and Alon, Elijah and Gwyn. And as we remember Rick Weber, we think of Susan and Mark and Josie. As we remember Ramala Temkin, we think of Linda and Daryl, Josh and Elisa, Sarah Rose and Jonathan, David and Dana. And as we remember Terry Avkin, we think of Paula. As we remember Phyllis Wolf, we think of Karen and Dan, Molly and Samantha, Gary and Stacy. And as we think of Richard Callis and we remember Richard, we think of Karen Freed. We additionally mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Harold Ash, Sylvia Beach, Lester Blatt, Marion Bowen, Margie Browarney, Rita Bruderline, Walter Cohn, Gabrielle Fishkin, Robert Freed, Evelyn Goldberg, Beverly Handelman, Jeannie Jaffe, Lainey Lurie, Barnett Minden, Mel Morelli, Mildred Parmet, Robert Rices, Moises Sampt, Larisse Shatkin, Wayne Shilkret, Harvey Sultan, Walter Steele, Harriet Weiss, and Regina Zamost. If you are here thinking of someone in particular this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name aloud as my eyes meet yours. I'd like to invite us to rise together as one community in love and in solidarity, as we offer these traditional words of mourning, which can be found on page 294 of our prayer books. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'amad yivarach yirtei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Omeo Maya Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitpa'ar Vitramam Vitnaseh Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shmei Lekudisha Barichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata Vishirata Tushbachata Venechamata Damiran Be'alma Vimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Alenu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Vimru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimramav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, amen. Well, we conclude our service this morning with a prayer for peace, knowing that we might find just a little bit of peace in our hearts on Shabbat, and that is a small token, a small piece of the peace that we bring into this world. I invite us to sing together. The words are on the bottom of that very same prayer.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Come on up. I'd like to invite Hannah and her family back up to the bima. You do not have to do it, but take a sip if you don't. Hang on one second. You can hold it. Just don't.
Okay.
One second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we take the.
Smells like a fart.
Hannah.
Doesn't smell very good. Yeah. So ostensibly, the sweetness of this cup is meant to reflect the sweetness of this moment, and so I invite us together to elevate this day and this moment by offering a blessing for our Kiddush and by offering a blessing for this day. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen lechaim.
No, I can have it.
Okay,
All right.
for it.
It's wine.
That was disgusting.
Okay.
Never
Well,
gonna do that
hopefully
ever again.
That's by design. All right. Let's offer our blessing for our hamotzi. We have a peculiar set of words in our blessing for our bread. It says hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread that rises from the earth, but we know full well that bread does not rise from the earth, and that there is a whole chain of work that brings this bread to our celebration. So too is there a village that brings any celebration such as this together. It is both that we celebrate and honor with this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
and Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Take a piece if you want. It's all yours. This whole thing is yours. It's up to you whether you want to share it or not.
Do you want?
Take. Here, I'm just going to put it down.
Can you eat the rest, Daddy? I know you're on a diet.
And as funny as they were, found and I was sitting there like, wow, like Turndorf family can write. Like, hell, that was amazing. Well, inappropriate.
You lost points for inappropriateness. That's how I edged you.
I acted and everything.
I mean,
Baseball? Not really.
Yes. Yeah, she's just not. Yeah.
I know, I know.
Yeah. That's because Raquel got pushed a year, so it was really close. But now it's a four.
Thank you. Yeah. She is right.
Talking about Raquel's sport.
Thank you. That's really sweet. I love what I do.
I know, it shows. You're welcome to, but I think most people will know to come up. If anybody wants, they're welcome to have.
I say yeah.
Go for it.
She said
Go for it.
Well, I've got the Cantor approval, so that's all that matters. And Raquel.